Come back after a short break. We are going to fulfill the need of the view through Sales view model. View model is a class which fulfills the need of the view in terms of data. So there is a need of items for to define as well. For example, public class item. What should be the properties for this one class? Uh, I can use this one, these three properties. If I want to fully follow the properties which I defined on the client side. Item name, item name, name and should be capital, is in stock, and stock quantity. So these are three. So I should have to define the list of item items. So what is I should also have to define public SL view model constructor. I should also have to define the constructor. Constructor is a piece of code, a function which is used to properly initialize class variable. I'm going to fully follow the object-oriented concepts. If someone is not handy with the object-oriented programming concepts, then he should learn the programming and database concepts course, which I have recently defined to consolidate the concepts. So, what is one more thing? List of items is required, and also customer is required. So, customer, exactly the name is something. Customer. Let's suppose. So, cache sale view model. This is the class. The view model class is a class which fulfills the need of the view in terms of data. Mod is equal to new cache view model. Return this mod. Now fill this class to get items from database. Right now I am not talking about the database. I am going to once again hard code items in this lecture as well. For example, new item, name of item is, item name is item 1 from server. Now this is from the server side. What is the stock inside the stock? Yes, this is inside the stock. And what is stock quantity? For example, this is 5. And also we can define many items. So I have defined 4 items once again, or one more item, 5 items, let's suppose. uh, Basically, in the next lectures we will write some code to get its data from the database, but right now I am just going to follow this one simple style. 15 items are there, then 4 items are there, then 35 items are there, and that's it. So what should be the name of the customer? Mod.customer. Let's suppose customer name is this one. So I want to show this one. So this data should be called whenever I call this one method. The data should be there. Yes, the call is here and the data is here. This is Chrome browser and the data is something like this one. And if I use, let's suppose the browser, I change the browser means IS, Internet Explorer. So the data is in the form of JSON packets. This is JSON packets, JavaScript object notation. So this is the beauty of the Web API framework to provide the data according to the need, whatever is the need of the client. If the client is demanding the data in terms of XML, so the data is there. For example, in case of the Google Chrome, the data is in the form of XML packets. And if the client is there to get the data and expecting the data in terms of uh, JSON packets, so the data is there. So now the data is available. Now I just want to provide this one data to my controller class, so that this data should be reused inside the controller class. So how the data is retrieved? Data is retrieved by calling this one URL. So I should define this is the service URL. I'm going to define this one as a constant value. Constant, what should be the name of this one? Cache sales URL. And what is the URL? This is the URL, for example, cache sales URL. The previously the data was my model was filling on the basis of the mod variable, and this mod variable is basically the data that is hard coded here. I am going to comment this one line, so that I am going to fill this one data by calling some service. So for Ajax, I am going to use Ajax call, and for Ajax there is a need to define a service. I have already used HTTP. HTTP is a service that I will use in my code, and through this service I will call the Ajax call. Uh, One thing to remember, that this is the controller class, and inside the controller class the name of the controller is POS controller, and its function is I have defined one more variable inside the function. This is called dependency injection. This is called dependency injection. Whatever is the dependency, it is injected automatically. This is the beauty of the MVC AngularJS framework. I just have to provide the dependencies in terms of the uh, parameters. For example, one more dependency that I want to use this one, cache sales URL. Basically, I want to use this one URL, and this has already been applied to module.constant. This is the chaining of method. Module method is there. It is going to define the module named as POS, and when the module is defined, the constant is added, and each method, for example, next method is returning again the module. So this module is basically used to define the controller. So inside the controller class I will use this one service, HTTP service. This service is a piece of code which is specialized to perform some task, and it is basically used to uh, provide reusability of the code. We call the service code from different controllers. So I'm going to define uh, the get is an Ajax call. Get method is will call a request to the server at this one URL, and there are two possibilities when the call goes to the server and returns back. Either the call, there is some error or there is no error. If there is some error, for example, there are two possibilities, either success or either error. In case of success, which function should be called, and let's suppose this function should be called. I am going to define the success. In case of error, what should be there? I'm going to define a function, and that function would contain the error, whatever is would be the error, let's suppose. So this is something that I have defined. In case of error, let's see the success story. For example, uh, I have commented this one line, and now going to use this one, replacing this one line by this one. I am going to get my data from the server, so this data would be retrieved. So let's see whether the data is coming now from the server. I'm going to save this one and going to view in browser once again. For example, this is the page I want to view in browser. If it is already in browser, so I just want to refresh this one. Yes, this is already inside the browser. Yes, the call is there, and after the call, oh yes, this data is from the server now. So what's happening once again? Look at this one piece of code. The call is uh, basically I have defined a get action method. Whenever the get is there, the call goes to the server. At which URL? This URL, and we know that at this URL this one amount of data is there, and it will return back here. And whatever is the data that is returning from the server, let's debug a little bit. Function F12 and debug it again. What's happening? Oh, the call is to the server. So when the call comes back from the server, for example, F5, where is F5? This is F10, or this is F5. So the data is there. Yes, this is data customer from. This is the beauty of the AngularJS framework. Data is there, customer is Rizwan, and items array is there. Inside the array, you can see the data. So this data is from the server. Now it is your responsibility to write actual code so that the data should be retrieved from the server. So in this lecture we have studied how to call to a web API method to retrieve data uh, uh, from a view to controller action method, and in the next lectures we will study how to retrieve this one data from the database. We will study the database concepts as well. For any question, you can write me at my email address, amount.badar@gmail.com.